comienzo de enero temprano sale la negra Tilia con su canasto tejido donde lleva lo de vender. No son las 5 aún, todavía no hay cielo azul que anuncie la mañana. Rumbo al mercado de por la mar y la negrita va. Al comienzo de enero temprano sale la negra Tilia con su canasto tejido donde lleva lo de vender. No son las 5 aún, todavía no hay cielo azul que anuncie la mañana. Rumbo al mercado de por la mar y la negrita va. Granitos llenos de algodón en lomas de nylon, el alcoholado español, los naipes y el mentol, la blusa fina, el jabón y crema de tocador. Cuando el sol se abrecido, la negra Tilia vendió todo. Granitos llenos de algodón en lomas de nylon, el alcoholado español, los naipes y el mentol, la blusa fina, el jabón y crema de tocador. Cuando el sol se abrecido, la negra Tilia vendió todo. Cuando el sol se abrecido, la negra Tilia vendió todo. Cuando el sol se abrecido, la negra Tilia vendió todo.
Thank you, Maestro. Thank you for having me here. It's it's such a pleasure to be able to spend, an hour with you today.
That was the last concert I did before everything shut down, and that was such a such a beautiful moment. You sang Depuis le jour, and it was so elegant.
Thank you, and you conducted so beautifully, and I felt so good. The way you just breathe with the orchestra and the way you handle that whole concert, which was so dramatic. It was for dramatic voices. It was so, grandeur of music, and you were just fabulous. You are one of the most amazing conductors I've
That is
ever
the
worked with.
sweetest thing, and thank you. Shout out to Natasha Novitskaya who put that concert together, and yeah, she put together a program that was really challenging, but in the same time, I love working with really grand voices. I was around them my whole life growing up, and it's just so special to me to work with wonderful singers like yourself, and I just revel in talent and get to hear new voices I didn't know. We had never worked together before. It was a pleasure, and I've watched that video a few times, and boy, I'm like, I can't wait to work with you again.
Oh, thank you, and I hope so. I hope that we get to do more beautiful rep together. I think that was the only piece that was not on the dramatic realm, so I would love to, continue discovering pieces with you, Maestro.
Well, there's so much music to discover. That's what's so. As we're coming out of the COVID period, I'm so excited to make music just wherever, whenever. I'm like, music, let's go. So tell us about your journey as an artist. I know you've originally born in Caracas, Venezuela. Tell us about your journey from Caracas to the stages of the world.
Thank you for that question. I actually grew up in a slum in Caracas, Venezuela. I grew up in a very poor place with drugs and gunshots and gangs and nothing fancy at all. Uh, but music was the thing that kept my family, my sister, my mom, my dad, my cousins safe. We used to get together and make music, and my parents wouldn't let us kind of get out of our house so that we would always be safe. And my dad exposed us to jazz, to folk music, to classical music, ballet, any any kind of music we heard at home. And he's a guitarist, so he taught my sister and I how to sing. He tried to teach me the guitar, but I just couldn't do it. I just didn't have the passion for that instrument. He is the kind of person that collects books, so we've had a lot of music books and encyclopedias and dictionaries. He was a firm believer of reading and spending time just learning something, even if we were not going to be instrumentalists. He always said, try to learn an instrument. He taught us solfege. He taught us music history and all
That's
that kind of stuff.
fantastic to have that background.
Yeah, my dad is a fabulous musician. We might have not had much, but something that we had was a lot of music and culture in our house. And I truly appreciate it from both my parents. My mom is a medical doctor, but in Venezuela, medical doctors make like $5 a month. So I always say to my friends, don't get excited. It's a different kind of situation. But also was always doing PowerPoints about the cell, and she was also a teacher at the Red Cross, and we would sit down and wait until we got home in her classes of anatomy and pathology and that kind of stuff. So I have two parents who are teachers. I also ended up studying music education, and when I was at the music school in Venezuela, I would do both things at the same time. And then I ended up coming to the US. I am very grateful for my two alma maters, Manhattan School of Music and Juilliard, who supported me economically. Juilliard gave me a full ride with a fellowship. I am so grateful
The
for all the
prestigious
support.
Kovner Fellowship. We had a pianist on the show who's also a Kovner Fellow, and that's one of the most prestigious fellowships in the musical world. So congratulations! What a amazing journey to start where you did and to wind up at Juilliard. And what was it like making that adjustment from Venezuela to Manhattan?
It was shocking. I mean, I had never gotten in an airplane before when I was 20. I had never, I was so like afraid, and I didn't know how anything worked. And, I was just shocked. by everything. It took a little bit of adjustment, and I am also incredibly grateful for the friends that I met in my first year in the school. There were a few Latinx instrumentalists and singers, and they had a little bit more experience with the US, and they just taught me what was going on. I came speaking English. I was very lucky that my uncle, he was born in Trinidad, and actually from my side of the mom's family, they're from Trinidad. So he taught me English, but my English was, very just I am Maria and I am studying music and the academic things. I could pass my theory tests and all that kind of stuff. But when it came to just regular conversations, I had no idea what was going on, and people were
It takes
laughing. And I
time.
was
It
like,
takes time to adjust.
a lot of time. I could only pass tests and just be efficient as a student. When I came here, I would record all my classes and sit down on Fridays and listen to it so that I would be able to gain some vocabulary and understand what my teachers were saying. And also in terms of regular conversations, I would ask a lot of questions. And I had incredible colleagues. I am incredibly lucky for the people that I've met along my journey.
So tell us about your first teaching, your first vocal experience. What was it like training as a vocalist in Caracas and then coming to the States? How did you develop your vocal technique, your love of repertoire? Did you find your FOC early?
Well, my first encounter with classical music probably was when I was very little, but the first time that it actually made an impact on my brain and my heart was when I heard a CD of Bach cantatas. My dad brought the CD because I told him I want to do a project for PowerPoint. We had the PowerPoint class and we could choose any subject, and I chose it on Bach, and he just brought me the CD and he was like, okay, use this. And I heard it and I was like, Dad, I want to be an opera singer. And he was like, I'm the only opera singer in the family. And he thought it was a little weird. He was like, okay, well, I'll take you to the music school. You'll talk to the teacher there. I was 11, so she said, you're too young, my dear. Why don't you wait a few years? Keep doing what you're doing with your dad. Keep learning, solfege and instruments and singing in a choir, and then come back when you're 14. And I didn't end up going with her, but I went to the Escuela Superior de Música José Ángel Lamas, which is the first music school in my country. And there I met my voice teacher, Francis Poleo, who is like my voice mom. I heard her singing in the library. Our school was incredibly humble. We had zinc ceilings and tubes holding the school, which is so sad, but we had incredible teachers. And I told her, would you mind teaching me voice? And she said, well, I'm not technically a teacher yet. And she was graduating. It takes 10 years to get a degree from the school. It's like the old colonial system. It makes no sense here. So her teacher actually ended up passing, unfortunately, and she took over her studio, and she was my teacher. She's the one that believed in me and said, you are gonna go to these places, let's Google it. She had no idea, I had no idea, and we just figured it out. She prepared me for my auditions. She gave me all the foundations that I needed. She thought I was a lyric soprano, just like kind of like what I am, a lyric soprano. And she said, this are the things that you have to work on. And she was the kind of person that taught me how to solfege all my pieces. I didn't sing a cadenza. If I knew all the notes, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, da, 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 da. She's my voice mama. She taught me all the panofka, the Método Garcia, all the methods. And I owe her so much, so much.
We all need those musical mentors. Without those people, our lives would be very different, right? So shout out to all the teachers and mentors who help people, because without, that's so important. You never know the impact you have on someone down the road. It's pretty amazing.
Yes, I'm incredibly grateful for my mentors. I have encountered beautiful mentors. One of my most recent mentors, who is my sort of like the person I go to when I'm doing Latin American rap, Pablo Zinger. He also has been incredibly giving and he has taught me so much about zarzuela and Latin American rap that I didn't know about. So, you keep meeting wonderful people, and there's so many people, along my journey that I'm so grateful for, because without them, you need those teachers that inspire you.
You do, and then you need to stretch, right? You take that and go on to the next level. And while it must have been very scary to come to New York and to change, what an exciting doorways that have opened for you. It's amazing.
Yes, I'm grateful.
Music and sports have always been great gateways for people to achieve and to like launch themselves into a different world. And talent really does pay off when you work hard, and it's a great story.
It really pays off. I often tell people that it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't
It really
matter.
doesn't.
You have to keep pushing. I mean, yes, there are gonna be bumps on the road, and I was scared that I didn't know where I was gonna end up the next day or after I graduated, because I don't have a funding. I support my family, but I said I'm gonna continue working. I'm gonna continue being the best person I can be, and I know that in one way or another, it will work out.
Well, you have to be determined and hardworking, and being an opera singer is a lifelong journey, right? All the languages and the musical preparation and the vocal preparation all comes together. So you finish your master's degree. Now you've entering and have been winning or placing in some great competitions, and I've been following you for years because I've known the competitions you were in, and people have been telling me about you. So when I finally got to work with you, it was such a pleasure. Tell us about some of the competitions, and what has that meant to you in your career?
Well, competitions are interesting because it's not. I mean, obviously, every performance should be the most amazing thing that you ever do. I believe that it doesn't matter if I'm singing in a library or in a homeless shelter, which I do, or a
Wow.
prison or anywhere. I volunteer a lot because that makes me very connected to my roots and what I love doing. So I will always perform with the best I can. Competitions, though, it's about like the points and the perfection and that kind of stuff. So it can be very hard to always think that I have to do everything perfect, and it can take the art out of you. But I find them motivating. I find them also inspiring because you see other wonderful people performing that you might not have seen, because you wouldn't be cast on the same thing, or you wouldn't cross paths otherwise. So I like that aspect of the competitions. And that just you explore really difficult reps because you're supposed to show virtuosismo and that kind of stuff. So I have found them really helpful for myself. It can be, again, it can take the art out of things. So I always have to constantly remind myself that it's a performance and that it's art that I'm sharing. And I've done a lot of competitions. I lost the count, like maybe 15, and I won about some of those, like a lot of them, and second places or finalists or this and that. And I'm always surprised that they pick me, honestly. I'm like, what is wrong with these people? So
Well,
I honestly, I go in and I try my best, and yeah, that's all.
that's all you can ever do, right? You get up there and give everything you've got, and you're one of those performers who just gives everything you have and puts the chips on the table. And that's really all you can do. If you try to win, you're not going to do your best. It's not organic, right?
I totally agree with you.
So competitions are such a great way to get yourself seen by people and out there. What are some of the professional engagements that those have led to?
Well, in the Viñas competition, for example, I won a debut at the Teatro de Zarzuela, which TV TBD. It's COVID really stopped a lot of the things that I was doing, and unfortunately, kind of put a stop on the things that were coming up, and I was getting some contracts and stuff, and it has kind of like stopped. But now with Cardiff, there are things coming up. I cannot really say yet because you know,
You can
it's
speak
all
vaguely.
vaguely. Yeah, there are things coming up, possibilities of doing some roles, maybe like in Carmen somewhere and things like that. So, but nothing is already like established.
It's
And there is also
it's a slow rollout for all of us, right? I mean, we're like, I'm feel incredibly blessed. I get my first concert in a year and a half. My first live concert is this Sunday. I've got to back to in my summer residency, and we had our first rehearsal with the choral singers, and I literally started crying. I was so in touch by just my colleagues. I missed people, like just making music in person. I forgot, like my hands were going in the wrong direction, and but no one cared. It was all about the emotion of getting together with colleagues, and isn't that crazy how much we've missed what we do?
Oh my God, yes. And what you said, um, I think the first time I had the opportunity to perform in October for Fedora with Teatro Grattacielo, which was, recorded. It's a completely different feeling because we did the opera backwards, and it's not the same as performing in front of people. So I had the opportunity to keep performing, and I found the way to do it. But what you're saying, once you're there and you're like, oh, people are there and they're watching, and this is like,
Humans.
yeah, humans, and you get all of a sudden a little bit nervous, and but it's such a joy to just be able to be back on stage and sharing. I have a few recitals. I'm going back to my alma mater next week to Juilliard to do an outdoor recital.
Oh, tell us
So
about that. That's exciting. Yeah, it's always great to go back to Juilliard, right? To share your gifts with them. So, what's happening at Juilliard? Tell us all about it.
they actually had they built a new infrastructure for the school. I believe it's called the Water Line, and it's in the Water Line Park. And then I think people sit down and have a picnic. It's kind of like one of those acoustic summer places to just go and sing. And I'm actually singing with one of my colleagues from school. We were together in school, and I learned the Micaela duet with him, and we're gonna sing it again. And it's so sweet. Like after maybe five years, I graduated in 2017. Um, that we're gonna do it again together is very, very sweet and heartwarming. And I'm very excited to go back. I'll be singing some zarzuela and Micaela and the duet of Romeo and Juliet. And yeah, I'm super,
So
super
tell
excited.
us about your zarzuela repertoire. It's incredible. I read about the Viñas and you winning the zarzuela award. Has that always been repertoire you've sung, or is it something you've grown into?
Well, I did a little bit of it's called tonadillas in Venezuela. I sang a lot of those, which is early Spanish rap, and I had done some stuff in Spanish, like Latin American music, and I did a lot of folk music growing up. But zarzuela itself, I didn't start doing it until I was in Juilliard my last year. That's when I said,
Wow.
oh, I want to explore this rap, zarzuela from Spain. And I had done just a few things from Cuban zarzuela, but not really like seriously. And then I met Pablo, and Pablo is a specialist in this repertoire. And I asked
And the
questions.
voice just
Tell me
fit like
about
a
this
glove,
repertoire.
right?
Yeah, because this music is kind of like bel canto. A lot of it is like bel canto. There are lots of notes and runs and that kind of stuff. So if you sing Violeta, or if you sing Elvira from I Puritani, it doesn't feel like you're stepping into a new realm. The only thing is the pronunciation. I did work a lot like on it, and I understood the different sounds that you find in Spanish from Spain versus Spanish from Latin America. So you have it there because then you don't sound authentic. And I worked on that, and now I keep adding that repertoire to my bucket list.
Does zarzuela have a strong presence in Venezuela?
Not really, honestly.
It will if you bring it back
At least not
one
in my
day.
generation. I hope so. I mean, yes, there are some Venezuelan zarzuelas, but I think that was a thing, that there was like a tradition of doing zarzuela. Not at all. More like there's a tradition of symphonic orchestras. I think because of El Sistema having such a strong presence in the country,
Of course.
there's more like a tradition of that, and the chorus and big chorus, big orchestra, but not really a tradition of zarzuela itself. And I like there is in Spain where everyone gets involved and they put a zarzuela together. But I did watch a zarzuela. There was a company that did zarzuelas in Venezuela called La Verbena de la Paloma. it was so much fun. It's basically everyone gets together in parties, and I like that aspect of music making, of collaboration, and being on the stage with other people, and yeah, fun.
I've enjoyed it. I've seen a few of Rosar's and I just love the plots. I just love the music. It's exciting, and I love light opera. I really enjoy that part of it. I started my career conducting operetta, and the Zarzwell is not far from that. You know, you get used to the music, and it's just great repertoire.
I agree. It's so similar.
So where can we go to see great Zarzwell in New York City?
Well, um, it's not really happening much. I believe that well, I did a zarzuela with New Camerata Opera in 2019, and I think that was the last time something was done. Very sad. I think that we have to change that, but
We
I
have
don't
such a
know.
large Latin
We need the
population in New York.
producers.
It makes sense.
Yes, yes. I mean, I wish the Mets would put on a zarzuela. That would be such a hit, And I think you know, I think it should happen. As you're saying, that there are so many people here that speak Spanish, and they're gonna get interested in watching something that they, can speak the language. The dialogues are in Spanish. It's a lot of dialogue, like operetta maestro, and I think it will be fun. And the music is so good. I mean, maybe there are some of them that might not be that good, but there are some
There are
zarzuelas that
lots
are
of operas that aren't that
really
great,
good.
certainly.
Exactly. There are zarzuelas that are amazing, and the music is so gorgeous and fun. Nobody dies. So it's good.
We always joke around in New York and say if they live, it's probably musical theater. If they die, it's probably opera. We're overgeneralizing,
Exactly.
of course, but
Of
that always makes
course.
it fun. So, what are some of the first roles you
Absolutely.
sang, complete roles in operas, and where has the voice been growing in the last couple of years?
Thank you for that question. Actually, the first role I ever learned, I shouldn't have probably learned that role, but my school, for the first time, we had no budget, and my teacher said, we're gonna put Don Giovanni together. And I think I was the only one that would be willing to learn Donna Anna, like learn the whole music. I learned Donna Anna at 18, and I actually
Wow.
performed it. Yeah. But I knew all the roles. I knew Zerlina, I knew Donna Elvira, I knew Donna Anna, and like I just like knew all the roles, and I could sing all the lines because we rehearsed like crazy, and then I did two productions of it, but I knew that it was just not appropriate for me, and
Not yet,
yeah,
not at 18, but you know what? The excitement of youth and the vigor of youth, that process of learning the roles must have put you in good stead to learn roles now, right? To kind of get through that process of dramatically learning a role.
yeah, and our teachers, they try their best to just help us, with the recitativo, with, how do you pronounce the double consonants, guys, the double consonants, let's go again, and, the shape of the phrasing and that kind of stuff. And I don't think I understood it back then. I had no idea what I was doing. I was trying my best, and but it was a really great experience, and I truly, learned so much from it. Then
Well,
after that,
there's nothing like that first time going through the staging, learning the technique and the blocking, and then having to do it on stage, becoming an actress. Was acting something that came naturally to you, or something that you've kind of developed your skills as you went along?
I definitely developed the skills. I actually had the wonderful opportunity to study with Maestra Catherine Malfitano, and she is an artist. She has an artistry that is just pours out of her, and she just knows how to do it. And she told me so many different techniques and ways of interpreting the text when I just came to the US. That actually, I think that was my first time actually thinking, when I was not on the stage, right, but just singing a song or singing an aria, how can you actually deliver the text? And that's something that Catherine Moffitano taught me. And I owe her that. I really honestly do. And I still think about the things that she told me and colors and adjectives. And she has a way of doing acting. And we did an acting class in her house in the summer, and we would roll around the floor, and it was fabulous. And then in Juilliard, I had some wonderful coaches. David Paul being one of them. He taught me so many ways, so many different things. Mary Birnbaum, who I worked with a lot in my last year. She she's a fabulous teacher, fabulous acting teacher.
It takes a long time to get comfortable in the acting and the singing and putting it all together into that kind of amazing package that is opera, right? That's the challenge. Is it's got to be kind of seamless. One can't take away from the other. The technique has to remain solid, of course, through everything. It is opera after all, but that's always an intensity. When you learn roles now, how do you go through the process of learning, let's say, like a new Verdi role or a new Puccini role?
Beautiful question. So I am currently learning Nedda because I'm performing in it with New Camerata Opera in September. So the first thing is just going through the libretto in my own language. So if there is a libretto translated already in Spanish, I just read through the libretto. I just say the words, until I feel like it's there. I think that's the best process. Then obviously I do research on the characters. Where is Nedda from? Where are the other characters from? How did they meet? Why are they there together? In what city are they in? What's going on? Why is she cheating on her husband? And all that kind of stuff. How does
big questions?
Big questions before I even touch the music, so that I have some ideas, and then I start highlighting my score and where my dynamics are. I'm going to also get the orchestra score, so I am not completely lost, which I didn't do before, but I'm going to do that now.
Helps to know the colors you're singing with. I agree. I'm always pointing that out to singers. Is like, look at the colors, look at the orchestration. If you're singing with brass, you have to sing a little differently than just strings or woodwinds. So you produce more sound. You have to be aware of that.
Yes, the register. Yeah, depending on how thick the orchestra is, do I have a liberty to maybe have a different color there? If the orchestra is like full out, what is going to be my plan? How I'm going to approach the phrasing? Can I really do it with the orchestra? All that kind of stuff. I mean, this is reduced orchestra, but anyway, I should just learn it already. Like, I want to learn it for a full orchestra. So I'm going to sit down with my score, and then I'm going to start, I usually do either text with rhythm first, then solfege, then I put everything together, and I do maybe 8 bars at a time, sometimes 4. If it is a hard phrase, just 4 bars at a time. But I want to make sure that I'm solfeging through all my notes, and I conduct my notes, and then I put it all together. Then I can coach it with a pianist, and then start feeling the technique. I already by seeing the notes, I already know where's my passaggio, where are the difficult parts of my voice, because I already did the solfege. If I don't know the solfege, I cannot sing. Like, it just doesn't work for me.
Having such a regimented structure makes memorizing probably a lot easier too, because by the time you do all the steps, you're already there. I do a very similar thing when I conduct. I always, if it's a piece I haven't conducted before, I do a full phrase structure analysis, harmonic analysis. I go through the lines, solfege some of the parts, sit down and review the challenging parts, come up with an interpretation. So by the time I get in front of an orchestra, I've pretty much got it memorized.
Wow, man. Yes.
But it's the
beautiful.
same process. It's all process. I tell everyone that everyone sees us on the stage. That's the icing. That's like when you look at the iceberg. It's the little bit that's peeking above. The rest is all the study work. At 3 a.m, I'm reviewing, rehearsing. I'm a night owl, so I'm always up at night kind of working on my scores. And by the time you get in front of the orchestra or the singers, you start working staging, that's all got to be there.
Yes, and I can tell that you know it so well, because when we sing with you, there is a feeling that you just know our breath so much, because you're so in the music already, that you don't feel like you have to help the conductor. It's so beautiful to sing with you.
I owe that to my Maestro Filippini, who was he was a great Verismo conductor. He worked with everyone. He was Corelli's coach, Franco Corelli's coach. He was, he played for him a lot on the piano. I mean, he was the master of that. He was the master at being with the artists, and they would always know that he was there. And he taught me to just breathe with them, because that's the most important thing. Is just you have to understand their breath. And I was a singer first, so that helped me. But just feeling, and I can always read a singer's breath. I can tell if they need to move things a little or slow things down. And I love that nonverbal communication that between the conductor and the soloist.
So beautiful.
It's magic.
Yes, it is magical.
what makes opera so special to me is that kind of how we all come together with different skills, and we're there. We have different jobs, but boy, in the end, we're all there to tell that story. And like, I love musical storytelling, whether it's a symphony orchestra or an opera. Opera is my first love, but I just love symphony as much. And it's so exciting to tell a story with colleagues and to work with fine artists. And I just like the more I do it, the more excited I get.
Yes, we are very lucky to do what we do.
We have a question from the audience. What is the aria or the opera role you've sung the most up to date?
Oh God. Well, you know what? I think it's Jeudi because I honestly, I sang that so much. But now I don't think I didn't keep the count. Like because like you kind of go in phases. Like would you do an aria a lot, and then but then you move to the other one, and then it comes back because of whatever that's the right thing to offer to certain panel. So, but I think it should be because I sang so much that aria because I wanted to get it, and I just probably sang it, I don't know, 1,000 times.
They get better each time, right? You deepen your understanding. I've conducted Traviata probably 30 times, and every time I do Traviata, it's like an old friend. I just, I dust it off, I take it out again. I'm like, oh yeah, I review it. I always find I'm amazed. I'm a bit older than you, so when I come back at a piece, it's always like how different I am as a person. It kind of comes back into the music. I always kind of review it and go over it again, but it takes on different life because we're different people by that point. Everything changes, our perspective changes slightly, and even though I've done it so many times, I keep a tally in front of all my scores of where I conducted it, what the date was, and who was in the cast, and I'm always like, I kind of remember each single one. It's really cool.
That's beautiful. And every time you open a score, you can always find something new. Oh my God, I didn't think about it this way. And, you just go through other rep and you learn something from the rep and then you bring it into this one. It's just, it's fun too. It's like reading a book.
It is. And like, all the composers, like there's a lineage, they all inspired each other. Like, Mozart inspired Beethoven inspired everyone that come after him. Even Verdi like had to know his Beethoven, they all know each other. They kind of all like draw on that musical well. And it's really pretty amazing. And that you can like hear these characteristics and you hear like, it's like a continuous the Western tradition that goes back to the 1600s or way before. And it's like it's such a blessing to be a part of this.
Absolutely.
Now, you were telling me before that you also enjoy teaching.
I love teaching. Well, my parents being teachers, I think that inspired me to also want to be a teacher and pursue it in school. And I always found my dad's magic on the classroom something very powerful, and same with my mom, giving to her students such beautiful knowledge. So growing up around it, I never thought it was weird or different. I just thought it was the most normal thing. And I went to the classroom so much because my parents would have to take my sister and I, like one of them would take my sister and then I would go with my mom and vice versa. And then we would wait at the end of the classroom and just sit there and wait until they were done. And then, I felt that it was my passion too. And I started teaching when I was 16. When I started pursuing my career in the Universidad Experimental Pedagógica, Ciso Manuel Martínez. It's a long name.
Rolls off the tongue. Yeah.
I know, long name. And my dad actually got me a job subbing in one of the schools, and I was teaching preschool. I love the little kids. I love the 4 years old. They are so cute, and they love, you tell them something, and then they get so excited. Like they have never experienced it before. So you say, "This is a do," and they're like, "Oh, do!" They're so excited, and I love it. I just love that age, and I also taught, adults as well. I had some singing students. I don't know why they were studying with me when I was 16. I don't know what they thought, but it was more like popular music, folk music. And then when I came to the US, I continued teaching voice. I taught Spanish. I also do Spanish diction. I'm actually part of a diction body, and I
I
entered
saw
Spanish.
that. We had Kofi was on the show a while back, and it's great to see that you're involved in that because boy, that's just so helpful to help people who are exploring the Spanish repertoire. And are you doing Spanish and Italian or just Spanish?
Just Spanish, just Spanish. Yeah. Italian, I speak it, and when I have to speak it, I actually prove myself that I could. In Cardiff, there was a tenor from China who only spoke Italian. And actually, I was translating for him and speaking with him. My Italian just got together, and just I was like, "What? What's going on with me?" But I studied a little bit of it, and now I want to study it more formally. And it's so similar to Spanish in verbs and conjugations and stuff like that that it's a beautiful language, but only Spanish.
Okay, well,
And
well,
I love it.
obviously you're the best to teach that. You've been involved with it, and there's such an explosion of Spanish art song. I have a couple colleagues of mine who perform a lot of Spanish art songs, and there's a real explosion of like interest in the Central American and South American composers.
Yes, the music is so rich and the rhythms are so unique that it's such a shame if people don't explore that. And a lot of the composers write for beautiful voices, for operatic voices. There are all kinds of composers from Latin America. I'm very, very interested in the more folky, more natural kind of singing because I find it more different than opera and it gives me variety in my life. But there are composers that sound like Debussy, and you have everything. We also have Piazzolla. We have Pinasteras. We have fabulous composers.
Yeah, there's so much. There's so much every country's got their own traditions too. I'm just scratching the surface. I'm always learning, and I'm always fascinated. So whenever I have a guest on, I have to research. And my son studies percussion. He's working on samba. Then he's looking at this, and each country's got its own percussion. I'm just amazed, like the different national traditions and how complicated each one is.
Yes, it comes from the diversity that we have in our countries, the the indigenous people, the African diaspora, Jewish people that came there too, and all of that mixed with the Spanish and Portuguese and French and Italian and German, and that created these different styles in many different countries. It's a very different story, like history for everyone, and obviously there are so many similar things, but everyone has something going on. And in Venezuela, we have a lot of Afro-Venezuelan music that is so beautiful and that I enjoy singing and researching. Also from my mom's side, my grandmother was an Afro-Caribbean woman. She was from Trinidad. So I also have done research on Trinidadian music and sang some Trinidadian music. I did a concert last year for Trinidadian folk and classical songs, and that's also part of my heritage. And I love it. There's so much variety in this world.
That's fantastic that you do folk as well as on the classical side of things. So, what's it like technically going back and forth? Do you change your technique at all, or does it stay pretty consistent? How do you approach that?
I think it's better to stay consistent. I don't belt. Like I would just not do it, extreme belting. I can belt up to an A safely that I know that it's not going to just make me feel weird. But I try to approach it in a just natural way, maybe not using so much vibrato and just, making sure that it sounds almost like as I am speaking, depending on the kind of music that I'm singing. So that's kind of like the way I approach it. And I enjoy it. Obviously, there are genres that my voice doesn't have the potential or actually the natural quality to be there. Like I wouldn't do flamenco, for example. Like that would just be a disaster. And I just listen to that. Just listen to it. Don't get involved, even if I love it.
I love all music. I'm always fascinated when I approach a tradition I know nothing about it. It gets me so excited, and then I go down the rabbit hole with that. Like I did that with Tuvan throat singing when I was in college, and
Oh wow.
it's great. It's an incredible tradition down there too. There's just so much great music to learn. That's what makes life so exciting, is to learn from colleagues and to watch. And I love to go to recitals, and I love to watch people perform music that they connect with, and do your classical music, then connect with different music, and I just want to learn about it. So I can't wait to see. So your next recital, when is that going to be?
My next recital, I actually have a recital coming up this Friday. It's called French Opera, and actually, it's with one of Kofi's organizations. He actually organizes concerts. He's so fabulous. It's called
Fantastic.
yeah, called Salon 58, and it will be in the St. John's in the Village Church at 7:30 p.m. It's donation based,
I know
so
that
you
church
can.
well. I've performed with the orchestra there a couple of times. We used to rehearse there. It's a great church.
It's a beautiful church. I have done several concerts there too. So we will, Vita is going to be singing with us. She's a fabulous soprano. Colby, my husband, will be playing the piano, and I will be also singing. And we're going to sing a lot of French music, from French melody to French opera, and yeah, it's going to be.
Fantastic. It's always great to hear live music returning, to see great artists back to work. Now, you've got since I've seen you last, it was like a year and a half, a long time. You've had a major life change too. You've had two recent additions. Tell us about how you're balancing your schedule with the two new additions.
There's never balance, I believe. You know, if I told you, oh, everything is going so well and perfectly, I would be lying to you. It's never like that. It's
I've
day
got
by day
four.
basis.
I understand.
You I know, and Maestro, you also are a father of twins. You know how that goes.
It's that first year, boy,
It's
oh
great.
boy. I had no idea.
Oh my
I'm like,
God.
I saw that
Yeah.
on social media. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. Blessing. What a great blessing.
Yeah. It's a beautiful blessing. We have twin boys. They were born January 19th. So they're up to be 6 months now in July 19th. And yeah, but I have a great support system, honestly. I cannot complain. My husband is an angel. They were delivered by C-section, so I actually at the beginning I couldn't do anything, and he changed diapers. He took care of me. He was, and nobody was allowed in the hospital because of COVID, so it was just the two of us and the two babies.
Wow, that even to complicate things even more, I didn't even think about that. That must have been crazy with the COVID restrictions and all that stuff.
It was rough, and I'm so just incredibly grateful for my incredible husband. My sister is here too, and she helps me so much to just give us a hand. Back then, my best friend, she would come and just cook for us. And that was just so kind because it was really rough. At the beginning, it was crazy. I didn't have time to practice. I didn't have time for anything. And also, I had to heal. My doctor said, you are not going to be singing and making all those high notes and straining your body.
All
He
that
said, you'll
support, that
go.
low support, you need to give it a break for a while.
Yeah, so I actually started singing like 3 months ago. Yeah, so I had to get my stuff together and just like
Talk
push
about
through.
pressure. So I saw that. I'm like, when I was reading about the Cardiff Singer of the World, you had to come back and be at your top level. So what was it like, balancing your new role as a mother with your new role as a finalist in a major world competition?
The best I could, schedule the babies. They nap, you sing. They nap, you sing. They nap, you sing. Get your music. They're there. Show them the music. Oh, look at this. This is a piano here. What's the translation here? Just trying to do everything at the same time. And then also taking turns. My husband, he takes care of them. Then I give him a break. And then we go back and forth. My mother-in-law came to New York in March. That gave me some time to practice, just get back on my routine as much as I could, and that's how I did it. Like honestly, by the grace of God.
By the grace of God, really, truly incredible. What a great story, and what a great tribute to you, what you're doing, and to your husband. It takes a whole team to be an artist, doesn't it? It really does take a team.
It really does, and they give me so much strength and motivation. I love my boys so much. When I sing to them too, they love music. We play for them.
They
They
don't have
are
much
just
choice.
they don't have a choice, but I think they like it. They laugh. They're like, ah.
I'm
So
sure
it's
they
cute.
love it because it's going to be in their blood and it's going to be around them at all times. Mike, I have four, and all four of mine are growing up, and they're all musicians in their own way, and they've all been around music their entire lives. Three of them are not going to be professional musicians, but the youngest one wants to be a professional musician. So, but it's just fascinating to watch them grow, and music will always be a part of their lives. So it's really so special.
It's so special. Oh, I'm so happy that they're involved in music. We don't know what's gonna happen. We will also like that as much as possible. We don't want to push it on them because we don't want to be those parents that like you have to practice the piano. But it would be beautiful if they're interested in it.
They're going to go where they're going to go, and you're going to help them get there. And it's a beautiful journey. It's always a special journey. And the fact that, so tell us about your first competition back. You had to get yourself ready. You get yourself over to Wales. You perform. What was it like taking the stage after all this time off, after all the whole journey we've all been through with COVID, with your birth of your twins? What was it like to hit that stage?
It was magical. A lot of pressure. I cried afterwards. Like it was such a catharsis of emotions and to get ready and to prepare as quickly as possible to get it to the highest level that I could humanly possible do because I honestly it was not in my opinion, I can do better, but my body just could take what it could take and it could do what it could do and it was the right thing in that right moment of my life. And I
Okay.
cried. I had to quarantine for 10 days, be away from my family. It was so it was so emotional, and I before I went on stage, I have this beautiful um, necklace that my in-laws gave me, and it's a meaning of my children. It has two hearts, and
Oh,
I took it with me. And this time it was for my children that I was there. I was performing for them, so it had a very different meaning that it had had before. And I just said a little prayer, and I went on stage and I performed for my babies. Hmm.
well, that's really incredible. Thank you for sharing that. It's an incredible story, and you're an incredible person. And I can't wait to watch you take the stage again as the careers open up and as the opera houses start and the concerts return. They will all come at once. It's going to be just a flood because one thing we've learned. I'm a history fanatic, and I love to study history. Is whenever there's been a major like a human like catastrophe like COVID was, or like World War II, or the Black Death, if we go far back enough, there's the next chapter is the reaction to that is emotional, and people and art comes pouring out because that's the way people come to terms with these times of these of incredible turbulence is to pour it out through art. So I think we're going to see a renaissance in the arts in a lot of ways.
Yes, amen, Maestro. I think that we deserve that as a community, and the world needs art to heal and to get together. Art is it's life. Art is soul. Art is honesty. Art is hard work. Discipline. It's everything. So we deserve as a humanity to heal through it. And I really hope that everyone gets on that wave and we see, as you said, a beautiful renaissance of music.
What advice do you have for young people who are just starting out and and they've seen so many of their opportunities kind of sidelined for a bit? What advice do you have to for your colleagues and everyone who's coming up?
I would say, maybe for some people, there is this thing called a self-esteem journal, and it's been very beautiful for me. If where you write the beautiful things that you have, what good things are happening around you. I think that that's a good place to start. And then asking yourself, what is it that you want this year, for example? What is it that you would wish to be in as an artist, right? By December, are those things going to happen for you? And if they're going to happen, if they're not going to happen, how are you going to suffer? And how is that going to look for you in 5 years? I think it's very important to ask ourselves those questions, see what we have already, but also ask ourselves, real questions of how am I going to make my career happen? Is this something that is so important for me, that I love, that I see myself doing every day, no matter what, no matter how hard it gets, that I'm gonna practice, even if my children, are never slept and I'm putting them in bed and it's 8 p.m. and that's the only time I have to practice. Are you gonna do it? That's the question. And for me, it is yes. Like I say yes. I put them in bed and I'm ready to practice and I have the energy to do that because I love it. I don't feel like it's a job. But for some people, it feels like that, and it might not be the right thing for some people. So we always have to find it. Or is it that I don't want to be a singer? I want to be in the music, administration. Finding always the way to keep yourself in it and being positive about it, as positive as you can. Um, every day.
Positive, it just every word you speak is so positive. Your air around you is just so positive, and you're an artist of such extraordinary talent, but also so humble, and you've incredible heart. So thank you for sharing that with us today. How can people find out more about you and hear your singing and maybe some of your videos? Where can we go to find all that?
First, I want to say thank you for inviting me, Maestro. I'm a big fan of yours, and thank you for having me in your beautiful program. You are also a wonderful, positive person and talented. So thank you. Thank you so much. If you guys want to find me on Instagram, I am as Mafer Brea, Maferbrea. That's my Instagram handle. And also I am on Twitter as Brea Mafer, which is BreaMafer. You can find me on my website online as Maria Brea Soprano. And there you can contact me for anything. If you need help with Spanish or Spanish rep, I'm so happy to send Spanish rep to everyone so that everyone can sing at no cost at all. So I just want people to sing Spanish music, and anything that you need, I'm here to help.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us today, and I look forward to making music with you as we turn that next chapter.
Yes, I will manifest that so it happens.
And all the best to you and your family.
Thank you, Maestro. Thank you for having me. Love to your family, and let's see each other on stage.
I look forward to it. Thank you for joining us on Music Matters with Jason Tramm. Please remember to subscribe to us and follow us on all our social media platforms and share our videos as it helps our community grow. I want to thank you so much for being here today, and remember, keep music alive.